printed out from Scott Carpensy, and he says, "Hi, I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania. Huge fan of you and your channel on YouTube, and I'm typically talking tech constantly in the chat room at live.pirillo.com. He says he's a registered member at geeks.pirillo.com as well, and doing a History Day video documentary on the Windows operating systems and the impact and change it had on society and history throughout the years. Since," he says, "you have worked with the Windows operating system since the days of DOS," indeed I have, "I thought it would be nice to interview you, either over Skype or through email, or if you have a better suggestion. Also, if I can interview you over Skype, can I record the conversation and use it in the documentary?" Well, you can certainly use this video in the documentary. Unfortunately, with Skype interviews, sometimes coordinating schedules is a bit of a challenge. So hopefully this will suffice. Scott ended up responding to, well, my answer, which was yes, I would love to help, at least by email, and sent 3 questions in particular. And these are questions that I'm going to answer with my own opinion, and I would like you to answer as well. So listen closely. I want your opinions as much as you're listening to mine, okay? It says, number 1, how do you think that Microsoft changed the way computing was made simpler for the average user? Well, back in the day, it wasn't easy to use a computer. It was very confusing, as a matter of fact. And to know that something was going to be Windows compatible or even DOS compatible, it lifted such a weight off your shoulders. You knew that if your computer ran DOS or Windows, the software would work. You just knew. I mean, that was a big deal, because back in the day, you had a variety of home computing systems to choose from. I mean, I started out on a Commodore VIC-20, moved up to a C64, never got to a Commodore 128. By then, we really had moved on to a PC in our home. Since my dad was an accountant, he ended up getting a pretty good deal on something that ran DOS, which in many ways was a huge step backwards. When you went from a multimedia PC like a Commodore 64 to the PC running DOS, it was just not as much fun, because there was no sound, not a lot of imagery, just a lot of text. However, there was a lot of software that was available because a lot of people had DOS. You just knew you could go to a store, which is pretty much the only place you could pick up software at that point in time. I mean, yeah, you could get online at a screaming like 1200 baud or less, maybe even 300 baud if you were lucky. I didn't even have a modem until I was must have been junior in college. That's when I purchased my first modem to get online. And I remember connecting that modem to my dad's computer, and he freaked out because he thought viruses would be transmitted to the computer even if the computer was turned off, which is a fallacy, of course. My dad still turns his computer off and sleeps very well, soundly with a fly swatter, just in case a virus comes down the telephone lines. Kind of pathetic if you ask me. Anyway, not my dad, just the idea that, you know, viruses can be transmitted that way. Microsoft changed that to a large degree, and I give Microsoft props. Despite any kind of questionable business practices, the fact that they united the industry in the sense that you bought something, you bought a PC, you knew it was going to be Windows compatible or DOS compatible, you knew there was a wealth of software available for you no matter where you went. That was a good thing. Less confusion in the marketplace. Huge opportunity for developers. Instead of having to develop something for 15 platforms, they only really had to develop for 1. I mean, it was inevitable. I mean, if Microsoft did not take the lead in that capacity, someone else would have. And it could have been Apple, sure. But it wasn't. Apple went a completely different direction. Microsoft won. If it wasn't Microsoft, it would have been something else. And if it wasn't something else, we'd end up with a far more fragmented, I guess, environment today, or ecosystem, as Microsoft calls it. And so I do thank Microsoft for basically uniting the industry under one operating system, for better or for worse. Number 2, how did Microsoft make it possible to let most people own a computer and be able to use it without direct knowledge, or I'm sorry, distinct knowledge? DOS wasn't that incredibly easy to use. And to be fair, the old Apple IIs were not that easy to use either. However, the Mac was a bit more expensive. The way that Apple wanted to carve out its niche in the industry, its focal points versus the focal points of Microsoft in the PC industry. Microsoft had their operating system and they licensed it to computer manufacturers. Microsoft has never actually created a computer, which I always find it funny when people try to compare Microsoft to Apple. That's kind of a dumb comparison, because Apple is closer to a Dell or an HP than it is to Microsoft. And Apple, in many ways, stands on its own. Not only does it, have its own hardware line, not to say they make their own hardware, because of course they've got components in there from a variety of manufacturers. They have their own hardware line, but they also control the operating system. Microsoft controls the operating system, and that's just about it. And while you can pick up hardware that has a Microsoft stamp on it, Microsoft, made hardware, or at least, branded hardware, it doesn't have its own computer. You can't fairly compare Microsoft to Apple. You can't even compare a PC to a Mac, fairly. You just can't. An operating system, you can compare to an operating system. Windows to OS X, I think that you can be pretty fair with the comparison on the operating system and its merits, or maybe some things that it doesn't do well. But it's something where Microsoft just put it in the hands of manufacturers and let them, just run with it. So they made it more affordable, okay? And not to say that, well, if I had a choice, I would have put Linux on the computer. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Well, first of all, Linux didn't exist at that point in time, and Linux was created because of more expensive options in the marketplace. It's getting to the point now where every operating system is extremely user-friendly. But back in the day, I wouldn't say that Microsoft was creating the most friendly operating system. it was the most potentially flexible because it had to run on a variety of hardware, and that's where most people run into problems with drivers. What works here on this system works fine, but on that system, it doesn't work fine. Is that Windows' problem? Is it the manufacturer's problem? Where does the fault lie? And, with Apple, the fault pretty much lies with them. With Microsoft, the fault could lie anywhere. But you don't have to pay top dollar to get a PC, because that is the advantage in the marketplace. A manufacturer can, cheap out on hardware. You pay the price for that, which always kind of makes me giggle when people say, oh, I saved $300 on my PC. Good for you, because you're also going to be the one running into at least $500 worth of problems with the PC when it comes to support, because manufacturer likely cut corners. Not every manufacturer, not pointing fingers at all. You gotta make sure you know what you're getting into. They didn't necessarily make it easier for people to use. DOS was a kludge compared to the first GUI, or at least from Apple, which wasn't created necessarily by Apple. Inspiration from elsewhere. You do your research. I'm not going to go into that at this point in time. But I remember using a Mac SE back in college and finding the point-click interface to be, fun. It was visual. I mean, I had sights and sounds, and it reminded me of the days that I spent with the Commodore 64. Days that I did not spend, in DOS. DOS wasn't largely visual. You could have visuals in DOS with the right software and the right drivers, but it wasn't accessible for people. What made it accessible was the fact that you knew that the software was going to be available when you went to the store, because there were so many PCs running Microsoft's software, or Microsoft or Windows or DOS compatible software. You knew you could get it, and that made it a larger amount of choices in the marketplace. A lot of reasons why I started out with Microsoft in their platform as I grew up. Again, starting out on the Commodore, going to PC, deciding that, I think I wanted to bring an Apple into my life, and, not dismissing Windows altogether. I think at this point in time, every operating system's evolved to a point where it's pretty darn usable in its space. So I don't know if I really agree with the way you stated the question in how Microsoft made it possible to let most people own a computer. They made it possible by way of pricing, not necessarily by needing a distinct knowledge of using the computer, because one would imply that the software was easier to use. It's more of the price in the marketplace, which of course makes everything accessible, or more accessible, I should say. The third question he asked, going through the history of the operating systems, what has improved over time from DOS to Windows 7 that impacted society today? I think it's just the idea that you really can't get along without a computer. You just can't. Whether it's a computer in your pocket or a computer on the desk, you need a computer in some capacity. I mean, to even think that you could get a job without understanding the difference between Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, to me is kind of laughable. That's me, and that's my perspective, and that's my opinion. By making a home computer more affordable, not necessarily more accessible, just more affordable, and that would make it more accessible. They opened it up, and they opened up opportunities for developers, for people who wanted to learn more about the world around them. I would go as far as to say, and not to take away from Microsoft and what they, gave to the industry, because it certainly is a lot. We would not be where we are today without Microsoft, and honestly, this is my opinion, we would probably be further, let me try that again, because that wasn't even a word, probably be further behind if it weren't for Microsoft. And that is the truth. At least in my opinion, that's the truth, which fits, at least in my little universe. I think the internet has done more to bring us further ahead inside the world of technology, and has impacted our world more so than Microsoft. And the internet even snuck up on Microsoft to kind of surprise them. Even back in the day when Windows 95 shipped, it didn't ship with a web browser. You actually had to buy the Plus pack for around $30 to add Internet Explorer to it, or you had to buy, you didn't have to, you could buy Netscape on the shelf for $50. Oh man, Anyway, the question again, going through the history of the operating system, what was improved over time from DOS to Windows 7 that impacted society today? And I think more than anything, just becoming, and I've said this about technology in general, less invasive in its procedure and more pervasive. You buy a computer today, you expect that it's going to be compatible with your peripherals, with the media that you want to put online, you want to share, you want to get online in general. I mean, that's what most people use their computer for. Potentially word processing, maybe some spreadsheet applications, video editing to a certain degree, photo viewing and sharing to a larger degree, experiences in our lives. The computer used to be this box, this appliance, and now it's a gateway. So of course the operating system, as it's evolved in the Microsoft's world from DOS to Windows 7, has just become a lot more inclusive in terms of its place inside of our lives. It's an extension. It gives us the ability to do things that we otherwise could not do without a computer. But again, I'll go as far as to say that Apple and Mac OS X could do just as many things as Windows could do in a PC. Maybe different things, slightly, in their approach and the software available, but for the most part, same thing. Not going to say that Linux is up there, because it's still got a long way to go. But I applaud Linux and the entire open source community for the idea. And I think that, the idea of open source. I think inevitably open source is just going to be it. Even look at the way Google's going. Google, for most people, is the operating system. So I know that your project is related to Microsoft. Hopefully, I gave you enough answers related to that. But I would not be painting a full picture without mentioning the other choices in the marketplace. Microsoft certainly is very important, plays a crucial role. I do hope Windows does not disappear anytime soon, nor Microsoft for that matter. It certainly helped get us to where we are today. And I think in a positive capacity, no matter what you think about Windows or Microsoft, I think they've largely done good for the world of personal computing. You can debate me. That's your opinion, which you would regard as truth. My email address, chris@pirillo.com. Community of tech enthusiasts, geeks.pirillo.com. Feel free to answer these questions in a video response of your own, or follow up, typing in a text comment, or on Twitter, I'm at Chris Pirillo over there. And then you've got a chat room, typically talking tech, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a live video feed that you can be a part of at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.